So you can't be in a position like we are right now without asking what's next. It's one of those things. And it's kind of a tough spot. Like, if anybody has the right to bask in the glow, to have their 15 minutes of fame, it's Jamahal Hill. And I will tell you, like, there is something really special about having a glorious moment while on the road. There just is. That flight home, it's different. The food you eat is different. The next morning, as you're kind of stumbling downstairs and people are telling you, good job, you haven't slept the night before because you're high. It's just different. That travel home, then you got jet lag. But people know it, so they're not expecting you to call them back. You're going to put that phone down for a few days. And it's hard to do when people come to you and they want to know what's next. But we have to know what's next, don't we, guys? We have to. And it's a very complicated spot. History says what, guys? History says the first thing we're going to look to do if you have a great fight is a rematch. Now, we don't turn to rematch very often, but we look to it, right? We've got to eliminate rematch before we go to contenders. So Glover retiring for us solves that problem. Now, one thing that they have done historically is you go give a real good look to that backup fighter, right? I mean, ask Kamaru Usman how that worked out. Ask Michael Chandler how that worked out, just by example. You give a real good look to the guy in pole position. In this case, it was our own Lionheart. And we would love to get that match for Lionheart. Not to mention Lionheart versus Jamahal was the match that was supposed to happen. That fight that got broken up was Lionheart and Jamahal. Well, that solves a lot of problems. There's no scenario where you can say Lionheart should not be fighting for. Well, of course he should. He was just supposed to. It just got broken up. Just because you're adding a belt now where the circumstances have changed, it makes it really hard to say that. Lionheart missed weight, and I don't have the story on that. He had made a comment early in the week, hey guys, chill out on my weight stuff. I don't know why you keep making an issue of that. And then he missed weight, and it was a very big surprise. Just because Lionheart is so disciplined, and he used to fight at 185 pounds. Now, I don't want to hammer too far on this. I'm just saying, if we've eliminated a rematch, and we can't turn to the backup fighter, who do you go to? And you guys will quickly look at rankings, and you will quickly come to Blachowicz, Ankalaev. You're not wrong to do that. It's just not my prediction. And who are you going to go with, by the way? I mean, that's a hard call. But what do we go with Ankalaev because Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier declared that he won? He didn't win. I mean, he didn't win. It was a draw. How are you going to go to Ankalaev? How are you possibly going to do that and do that in the face of Blachowicz? How are you going to go to Blachowicz if it's been stated that you think Ankalaev? I mean, do you see what I'm saying here? You could do it. I'll just share with you. A lot of times when you end up in these situations that are tough, they're close calls like this, you throw them both out. More common than not, when you end up in something like this, you throw them both out. You guys ever seen a head coach of a program resign? So his two assistants both apply for the head job? And the administration's going, oh my God, come on. I've known you 15 years. I've known you 12 years. We all worked it. They throw them both out. I think that that's what's going to happen with Ankalaev and Blachowicz. Not to mention, you guys don't want to see either one of those guys fight. I don't begrudge you for that. But what do? You still have to have an answer. We don't get to just keep dismissing guys. Pereira is a very interesting probability. Probability, not possibility. I think it is more likely than not. For multiple reasons. Well, let's just start with this. Pereira himself said, I'm leaving 185 pounds. I'm going up to 205 pounds, right? We saw this side-by-side with him. He stands 6'4". Remember that side-by-side of Pereira and Dominic Reyes? Dominic Reyes, a very good-sized 205-pounder. Pereira was towering over him, but you guys remember that? I don't think we had any idea what a hard pull he was having to get down to 185 pounds until that picture and that article, that subsequent article came out, and Pereira spoke on it. Look, I got a motivation. I'm coming after Adesanya. Whatever his beef was, and I still am fascinated by that. To be as driven as Pierre was to come after Adesanya, who he'd already beaten twice. I'm just very interested in that. But the other part of it was a respect to his mentor and training partner, Glover Teixeira, who was at 205 pounds. We've seen that before. Cain Velasquez, Daniel Cormier, just by example. So Pierre came out and told us, I'm not going up to 205. I'm for sure going to 205. I'm not going to go to 205 as long as Glover is champion or pursuing the championship. He retired. I think Pierre is going up. I think Pierre versus Hill is a very easy sell. I don't know who Glover's corner was Saturday night. I don't know. I would guess Pierre was in the corner. So a real natural, real easy fit here. Not to mention, Adesanya versus Pierre rematch is just simply not being discussed. And guys, we just simply have not heard anything about that. Now, they could come out today and say, here's the date and we're doing it. We'll all gobble it up, no problem. Make perfect sense. I'm just sharing for you that it's been reserved. It hasn't been stated. And I think that the reason was, whether it was conscious or subconscious, that Pierre wants to give a real good look. Is my buddy still there? Because if he's not, that's the weight class I want to go. That's what I think. And that's a bit of a wild prediction by me. And that's not generally the way that the UFC would like to do it. Like, just by example, let's say it plays out the way I just stated it. I'm pretty comfortable in telling you that Dana did not lay that plan out. I think that Dana would rather keep Pierre here at 185 pounds. And whether that means Whitaker, you work something out with Paulo Costa, you bring Izzy back in, I think that Dana likes to have his champion there. But this is a situation where you may not have the choice. Pierre is big, guys. He is big. You cannot just keep making weight because you're physically willing to do the work. It doesn't work. You have to be fully committed. It is a lifestyle. You have to mentally be driven to beat that scale. And if your number one motivation was a competition with a guy who you just competed with, and your number two motivation was a respect to a guy that's up a weight, you're down to motivation number three. Motivation number three ain't going to get that job done. Motivation number three does not get that weight off and get a 6'4" man who walks around at 241 pounds down to 185 pounds. It doesn't work that way. Pierre versus Jamahal Hill. I think if Pierre speaks up and gets his way, I think that's the direction he's going to go. And you know what? I don't have a problem with it. I think it creates a bigger problem for 185 pounds. I think it's always tough, right, when the cat's away and the mice are going to play. I think that it's always a tough situation. Because whoever comes in and picks up the belt then behind it, right, you got to live with that. Well, I'm here because he's not here. I understand that, but that's life. I think it's a harder story to tell for the 85-pounders. But as far as 205 and what are we doing, what can we look forward to? It's an outside bet. But if I'm going to give you my prediction, I think we're going to give a good look. Not announcing this is going to happen. We're going to give a real good look to Alex Pierre versus Jamahal Hill.